Hey guys, this is a segment from the Slumpbuster Podcast. You can find the full episode on any of the various podcast platforms, or of course, subscribe to us on YouTube for more of our content. Other than that, guys, sit down, bust a slump, and enjoy. And speaking of those Patriots, so they are missing one core piece this year. I can't put my finger on it. What is that, Bob? Can you help me?
Well, Dante Hightower.
Dante Hightower, duh. Also, Patrick Chung, those are big losses. There hasn't been any other offseason news with the Patriots, has there?
We didn't re-sign Antonio Brown.
Oh, okay.
Josh Gordon's still gone.
You drafted that kicker, right, in the third round?
We did.
You did that down. Yeah, new kicker. So Stephen Gronkowski. Oh yeah, and Tom Brady's no longer a Patriot.
Yeah.
That's what. How could that escape my mind? It's almost like people should have covered that. That was a different time. It was pre-COVID. Everything after Tom Brady signed with the Bucs was just a downhill spiral.
Thanks a lot, Tom. Look what you did.
And then he's the one out there breaking Tampa Bay restrictions. He's going into parks without a face mask, breaking into people's houses. What was Bill Belichick doing to control this man for 20 years? That is the major question that we have to answer. As well as the record predictions, we'll focus on the team. But this is such a unique year. This is something we haven't seen. So just to summarize again, everything with the Patriots. So we did mention they did have several opt-outs, and they were the team that was probably hit the hardest by opt-outs. Dante Hightower, Patrick Chung, these are core pieces of that defense. And then obviously you're losing the GOAT, the real GOAT, not Nathan Peterman GOAT, but Tom Brady. And we haven't seen much of that. We saw 2 games of Jimmy G, one of Jacoby Brissett. We got to see Matt Castle for a year. But for the most part, it's been Tom Brady running the show. So do you want to give a farewell letter to Tom on this one?
Well, I've written a farewell letter to Tom. But if I remember correctly, that season with Matt Castle, we did finish.
Don't even remember that. Matt Castle.
Same thing.
Okay.
We did end up finishing 9-7, correct? We still have
11-5 actually.
11-5.
It was one of the most unique seasons.
We didn't make the playoffs.
Didn't make the playoffs. It was one of the more unique seasons in NFL history that 11-5 team did not make the playoffs. In fact, a really good Cleveland Browns team didn't even make the playoffs that year.
And the thing is, obviously, you're talking about Adam Gase not having a record for elevating talent, but Bill Belichick is obviously the complete opposite. You know, I think obviously we've lost a lot of key pieces, but I think we're still the best run organization in football. We have the best coach in football. Cam Newton hasn't shined like he did in that 2015 season. I see the Patriots still being above 500, but I'm going to put them at 9-7.
9-7. Okay, and I think that is an optimistic projection. But let's expand on Cam Newton. So, Kyle, I'm going to throw this to you. So, Cam, we haven't seen good Cam in a while. Certainly we haven't seen it since mid-2018 when the Panthers started off pretty hot out the gate, and then a pivotal sack by T.J. Watt seemed to derail their entire year. Cam Newton obviously suffers a shoulder injury. The next year he's dealing with, I believe, a mix of foot injuries as well. And it's been a while since we've just seen prime Cam, even going back to the year after the Super Bowl where he played the Broncos on that opening night game and it got roughed up a little bit. So what can we expect from Cam this year? Are we going to see MVP Super Cam?
That's the big question, isn't it, Julian? Like, there's this dynamic right now where I don't know, and I don't think anyone knows how the Patriots plan to use Cam Newton. Whether they want him to be Superman from 2015 and have him run for 1,000 yards in a season, whether that's even possible anymore, given his history of injuries now and, reconstructive shoulder surgery, Lisfranc foot surgery. I just don't know how the Patriots are going to use Cam Newton. And that's why I've been saying, even before they signed Cam Newton, when Belichick had us convinced that Jarrett Stidham was an actual NFL quarterback, that they might be 4-12 and they might be 12-4. I just have no idea how it's going to work out. The defense is another problem because Belichick's been able to replace a lot of talent in the past. I just don't know if he's ever had to replace this much talent in such a short period of time, plus the whole COVID situation. But it's tough to figure out how good they're going to be, and a lot of people are putting stock in Belichick because they don't have a lot of other answers.
Yeah, the interesting thought about that, and I do I'm a Belichick believer. I will say that. How he's been able to replace talent over the years has been a very big point of why he's considered the greatest all-time coach. But the big difference is Bill breaks up with you. You don't break up with Bill. Tom leaving him and all these players leaving due to the COVID is something that hasn't happened to Bill. He hasn't had players walk out on him in a mass exodus like this. Rob Gronkowski leaving him a couple years ago. Danny Amendola. We have seen just a downward trend of players no longer wanting to play for Bill Belichick. And we actually had this discussion on our most recent pod. Definitely go check it out. But whether or not today's athletes can be coached up the same way. We know that Bill Belichick, he believes in tough love. That's his style of coaching. And I know, as a former athlete myself in high school, that's how my coach was. Bob, I don't know, like in any sports you played, if you had a tough love head coach. Kyle, same question. But a lot of coaches just grew up with the same type of mentality. I'm going to treat my best player like he's the worst player. I'm going to treat a man with 6 Super Bowl rings like he was still a pick 199. And that's a turnoff for a lot of people. That's hard to absorb to your ego. We all have egos. In fact, and with that said, Bill, at this point, I think he has as big an ego as anyone. And it's a curious case study. Are we going to see the Bill Belichick we saw with the Cleveland Browns at that franchise's turning point when they then became the Baltimore Ravens? Or are we going to see Bill, who managed to put together, again, 11-5 season in a year where Tom Brady tore his ACL? Are we going to see a Bill that managed to piece together the start of the year where Tom was out with the Deflategate incident? That's when Bill's been at his best. He's had to replace coaches year after year after year. And I think the biggest thing of strength you can say for Bill is going to be the continuity. The New England way, the Patriot way, do your job, has been instilled in so many of those players from the point when they were drafted that I think that is going to be able to keep this team at bare minimum competitive. You won't see this team blown out by 45 in any game this year. You won't see them just absolutely tank. They're going to be in games. They're going to maybe lose a few one-score games. But what does that leave with the Patriots? I have them going 8-8 this year. And that's just because of the enigma, the working parts, the lack of talent. It's not a very talented roster. But I think between the scheme fits and the coach, I have to give them the benefit of the doubt to at least put together an 8-8 season. Anyone else? Anyone want to take it up from here?
Well, I already gave mine, so.
All right. Oh, that's right. That the miraculous 16-0 with 0-16 mixed in there. Like I said before, it's going to be either 4-12 or 12-4. They might catch some of those Seahawks breaks from last year, where I think the Seahawks were 9-1 in one-score games, and kind of the narrative has been, they might luck their way into 5-1 against the Dolphins, Jets, and Bills. It's why the AFC East has been so hard to predict, but also why I have no faith in any of those teams to make it past the first round of the wild card weekend.
I'll speak for MMA Dre. He always talks about the big brother symptom, and that's essentially what the Patriots have had over this division for years. If it happens again, more credit to them. Big brother just having to pick on little bro a few more times.